Investors wait with bated breath ahead of a closely watched Fed rate announcement and Bernanke press conference. I'm Rebecca Darsh from the Market Access Center here on the world-famous trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange, here with the NYSE MacDesk floor report for Wednesday, June 19th. The Dow Blue Chips are down 23 points, that's 3 S&P points, in a very thinly traded equity tape today, as investors await clues from Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke as to a possible winding down of Fed stimulus. Let's take a look at the action on global markets overnight, as well as the options market set up ahead of the Signal policy preview event of the summer so far. Asian markets were mixed to lower overnight. The brunt of the selling pressure was not coming out of Japan for a change, given the volatility of Japanese markets over the past few weeks. China and Hong Kong led the regional laggards. This after the Chinese Finance Ministry's auction of the equivalent of nearly $5 billion in 10-year government bonds drew a bid to cover of 1.43. That was the lowest in nearly a year. There was additional volatility in the Chinese repo market overnight, with one-year interest rate swaps hitting a 5-year high on concerns that the country's lending institutions may be facing a cash shortage before the end of the quarter. Tokyo closed higher by 1.8%, marking a fourth straight day of gains, led notably by telecommunications stocks. Japanese May trade balance data reported overnight showed a 10% year-over-year increase in both imports and exports, although the net trade deficit for May came in at the largest on record. Despite the mixed data picture, BOJ Governor Haruhiko Kuroda came to the rescue with some well-timed jawboning, saying the BOJ could expand its April 4th monetary easing package if economic conditions warrant it. That's a departure from recent comments indicating the contrary, namely that Kuroda thought the bank had done everything in its power to stimulate growth for the time being. European stocks were mostly lower today in light volume trade ahead of the Fed. We saw some weakness from the Nordic banks, with Scandinavia's largest bank, Nordea Bank AB, seeing its biggest slide in a year after the Swedish government sold a 260 million shareholding in the company, cutting its remaining stake nearly in half to just about 7%. Here in U.S. markets, again, volume has been very thin ahead of the afternoon announcement. And as we mentioned in the midday yesterday, there's been some heavy demand from near-term buyers of puts on the VIX short-term futures ETF. That's ticker VXX. Buyers of puts are looking for the VIX volatility curve to turn lower as the risk outlook comes out of the market. We've been seeing some large prints from buyers of option premium in the emerging markets ETF. That's ticker EEM. Bullish positioning in July, bearish in August. In addition to the market catalyst coming from the Fed, bear in mind that we are trading ahead of a quadruple witching expiration on Friday that marks the expiration of multiple stock and index options and futures contracts. That's another volatility event to watch. Next week marks the rollover to July front month contracts. The Market Access Center is keeping an eye on the global macro calendar for next week. Let's take a look. Monday, June 24th is a light market day in terms of canned releases. We've got a look at Germany's June IFO Business Climate Survey, and here in the U.S., the first of a series of regional Fed manufacturing index releases, specifically the May Chicago Fed and June Dallas Fed gauges of economic activity. On Tuesday, we'll get a number of May trade data points from Hong Kong, some June surveys of small business confidence from Japan and France, and a busier day of releases from the U.S. with May durable goods and capital goods orders, consumer confidence, April home price data, and a June read on economic activity from the Richmond Fed. Earnings are due out from Lennar, Walgreens, and Apollo Group. On Wednesday, Germany will release its July GfK Consumer Confidence Survey, and we've got weekly foreign and domestic stock and bond buying data from Japan, some final or third reads from on GDP from France and the U.S., and earnings from General Mills, Monsanto, and Best Buy. Thursday, we'll be looking at May industrial profits from China, trade balance numbers from New Zealand, French consumer confidence, German unemployment, a final read on Britain's first quarter GDP, some confidence numbers from the Eurozone, and here in the U.S., May personal income and spending, weekly jobless claims, May pending home sales, and a dispatch from the Kansas City Fed. Earnings are out from KB Home, Nike, and ConAgra Foods. Japan will close out the week with a heavy day of data, releasing a little bit of everything, actually. June PMI, May employment, inflation data, housing starts, household spending, vehicle production, and industrial production. So it's a complete look at the Japanese economy out overnight next Friday. France will release producer prices and consumer spending data. Germany will release some regional inflation numbers, and we'll get some commodity price data from Canada, as well as the June U.S. Chicago PMI and University of Michigan confidence number, along with earnings from Family Dollar. We'll be watching all the action as it unfolds here from the trading floor, so put on your hard hats ahead of Bernanke, ahead of Friday's options expiration, and check us out next week for the next MacDesk Floor Report.